All right, hey kiddos, I hope you're all doing well. I wanted to make one video on current events breakdown with you. I had a couple questions about the letter that the mayor recently sent to the governor, and I wanted to walk you guys through what that letter is asking for and what it would mean should the governor decide to implement an emergency declaration for Gallup, the way the mayor asked her to. I hope you all are doing well. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen so we can go over a few documents together so you guys can understand this. So you guys might have seen, I chose the Navajo Times, but you might read the Gallup Sun, the Independent, whatever newspaper that you guys are following, or if you saw on TV that the outgoing mayor of Gallup, so Jackie McKinney, asked for a lockdown of Gallup. Now, there's a lot of things that this could mean, right? Like lockdown seems like a really scary word, but I want to go through and talk about what he's actually asking for. So if we go to the official Gallup website, right, this is the City of Gallup's website, they have the press release right here. So remember how we always go to the primary source. This is the actual letter from Jackie McKinney, the mayor, right, to Governor Grisham. So here's what the mayor has asked the governor. Pursuant to this law, through the Riot Control Act, I respectfully ask that you declare a state of emergency pursuant just means in regards to the boundaries of the city of Gallup. This request is being made as a result of the COVID-19 outbreak, which constitutes an unprecedented health crisis. So what he's saying here is that the mayor wants the governor to declare a state of emergency. Now, a state of emergency declaring that under this Riot Control Act is not the same thing as martial law. I had someone ask me that, and I want to make that clear. We'll talk a little bit about martial law in a minute, but declaring a state of emergency, what it does allow is that it means that the local civilian government is still in control, but that the civilian government is facing unprecedented, so things that we haven't seen before or things that we don't necessarily know how to deal with, threats. So he says, these are the reasons, right? The virus has already caused many deaths. We have troubles with our medical facilities and resources. And I'm worried about the welfare, so I'm worried about how Gallup is doing. We are unable to adequately address the outbreak without the imposition of certain restrictions. So he's saying that he wants the governor to step in because the people of Gallup and the mayor's office itself, so the local government, doesn't have the resources, the tools, or the authority to address this crisis without help from the governor's office. He goes on to say that he recognizes this request is unusual, right? He's saying the reason you have to declare an emergency is because this situation is so unusual. However, the COVID-19 outbreak is the crisis of the highest order and we need immediate action. So as you guys might have heard, you know, McKinley County has some of the highest rates of COVID cases right now. That's why the mayor is sending this letter. The Riot Control Act was originally set up, as you can guess, to declare an emergency when there were riots. However, it can be used to call out NMDOT, which is the Department of Transportation, so they deal with the highways, and the National Guard and other law enforcement agencies in other emergencies, right? So that's what he's asking the governor to do. And it is true that George Munoz, who's one of the state senators for the area, he's also asked the governor to declare an emergency so that they can help Gallup start to contain the infection rate and hopefully help people who have been infected and lower the number of cases in the Gallup area. A really interesting thing that's happening in our local government right now is that Jackie McKinney, his position as mayor ends today, right? And our new mayor is going to be sworn into office. So it's interesting that we'll have a new mayor after this request has been made. So we'll have to see what the new mayor says as well. And we'll see the governor, from what I've read, has addressed that she's leaning toward issuing this emergency declaration, but I don't believe she's officially done it as of me making this video Friday, 12:30. So let's talk about why this is different from something like martial law. Because I had someone ask me, like, does this mean if the National Guard's coming, does it mean that we're under martial law? And that's not what it would mean for the city of Gallup. Martial law, these are some examples. This is a constitutional website that gives examples of when certain things in the Constitution have been used. Martial law would be a federal issue or a federal order, not at the state level. There are times that martial law has been used. We talked about the Whiskey Rebellion in class a little bit. and during the South, right, during certain civil rights crises. So like when they had to integrate schools, or after the Civil War, they had to use martial law. Martial law is when you start taking away people's rights on a federal level, taking away rights that are listed in the Constitution. The difference is that the governor declaring an emergency, the way that the mayor is asking her to, isn't about taking away people's rights as much as it is about providing resources and putting restrictions in place with the authority of the civil government. So the big difference here is that martial law is the military taking over. That's not what's happening. The civil government, the local and state government are still in charge. The federal government's not necessarily any more in charge than it was before. So that's what he's asking for. He's asking the mayor to send resources and to help the city of Gallup by controlling travel in and out of the city. That's why he talks about New Mexico Department of Transportation, because they're worried that that's one of the ways the infection is spreading. So let's do a little check on why he might have sent this letter. So if you look at the New York Times, this is the upshot, and it's an article called 5 Ways to Follow the Coronavirus Outbreak for Any Metro Area in the US, right? This is automatically set to New York City area, but we can click on Gallup so that we can see the charts for Gallup. These are graphs that show new cases in the last 2 weeks. So that shows us how many people have been diagnosed as having the coronavirus and new deaths in the last 2 weeks. So right now, this is cases per 1,000. So this is like the rate, and then this is the actual number of recent cases, right? So Gallup, if you look at like Marion, Ohio, their rate is 29, right? But their number of cases is about 1,900. Whereas Gallup, which is a much smaller city, our rate is 10, right? But the number of cases for 10% is only 762 people. So remember, when you're looking at this, you're looking at the rate here, which is like a percent, and you're looking at the actual number of cases on this side here. So the new cases in the last 2 weeks in Gallup have shot up. 10% is a pretty high rate. But it's the second highest rate in the country right now, according to the New York Times. But they're saying that the number of cases is still growing. So the reason that the mayor is asking the governor to put these emergency declarations in place at this time is because they're worried about more people becoming infected and not the healthcare system not being able to help them. However, if you look at the new deaths in the last 2 weeks, Gallup is number 16, right? So the rate of people who have died is lower. So this is a really good tool. I can put the link to this in the YouTube description so that you guys can see this. This is a really good tool to track what's happening around the country, right? Because as you guys know, things on the Navajo Nation are different than things in Gallup. Things in Gallup are different than things in the rest of the state right now. So having the real numbers to be informed is a good way to know what's going on. There's also a really helpful tool at the New Mexico Public Health website here. See, it's the newmexicohealth.org public dashboard, so that you can follow what's going on. So this is a map of the state by county, right? So this is Gallup, this is McKinley County where we all live. In McKinley County, this is the number of cases. So the number of cases in McKinley County right now, total cases, 1,027, total deaths, 19, total tests, 6,157. Something I did want to show you, if you view the map by testing, you can see that there are more tests for coronavirus happening in McKinley County than almost every other county in New Mexico right now. So while it is scary that we have so many more cases being identified, it's a really good thing that we have so many more tests happening, because we're able to identify the cases as they happen, and we have a better view on the way that our medical system is going to be able to handle it and what the actual situation is, unlike some parts of the country which have very few tests right now. There's an interesting opinion article in the New York Times, and I want to point out this is an opinion article, right? So when we read it, we want to look for bias. But it talks about New Mexico as a state did a really good job trying to combat this virus because we were able to use some of the laboratories that we had in the state to produce more coronavirus tests. So we have a more accurate picture of how many people are actually infected. With a little more than 3,200 cases, New Mexico's infection rate is similar with states like Nebraska or Kansas. But with 65,000 tests so far, we have more tests than Texas on a per capita basis, and our death rate has remained lower than some of the other neighboring states. So this is really good news. It means that the state is working hard to try and treat the people who do get infected. And on the other part, I'm sure you guys heard about Mayamura getting turned into a recovery center, or saw on the news that Mayamura got some extra hospital beds to be turned into a recovery center. So those are the resources that we're already working with. This request from the mayor's office is just asking the governor to help us more by imposing more restrictions to help people understand that they really do need to practice social distancing to lower the infection rate, so that this number, where it's saying that it's still growing, can change to flat or decreasing. So that's what's going on. It's nothing you guys should panic about, but it does mean that you really should be following social distancing. It really does mean that you need to be wearing masks, taking the precautions in public that you need to take, washing your hands more if that's possible, not going out if you guys can help it. I know that's not the case for some people. I know some of you guys are still working, and I know you have families that you're working to help take care of, but do what you can to keep yourself and your family safe. I'm gonna go ahead and stop sharing my screen. So there is one more thing I wanted to address with you guys. You may have noticed that I'm not sending out as many readings or videos as I was originally. That's because the district and the principals have instructed the teachers to not contact students. They're doing this because they're worried about you guys getting misinformation about the district policies toward the packets that you guys are using. And they have argued that it would be unequal for teachers to contact students who do have internet access or who can be in contact with us when some students can't. You guys know in my class, we've talked about how sometimes the thing that you're told to do isn't always the right thing. In the case of COVID-19 and coronavirus, the things that you're being told to do by the government do appear to be the right thing. These things are scientifically based. They're not political. They're not necessarily about what people think is right. They're about what we know will stop the virus. They're about what we know will flatten the curve and help people be safe. Things like social distancing, washing your hands, and wearing masks are vitally important to keep you and your family safe at this time. However, what the district is telling teachers about not contacting students is something that I believe is not morally right. As a teacher, I think I have both a moral and potentially a legal obligation to be here if you guys need something. For those of you who can contact me over Remind or email, I just wanted to remind you that I'm here. If you have questions, need help getting resources, whether you guys are having a really difficult time right now, like I know some of you are, or whether you're simply trying to find a way to safely celebrate your graduation with your family and maintain social distancing, I'm here if you need help with any of that, or if you have questions about packets or logistics or resources in the community for you. So I just wanted to remind you of that. If you guys have questions about any of the information I went over in this video, I know I went over it kind of fast, go ahead, put them below or remind or email. Thank you, and I hope you guys are hanging in there. Like I said before, you guys are strong, you're gonna make it through this, and congratulations on it being May, because this would have been your last month of school.